If you've watched any of my past videos, then you've probably noticed this montage of cars come across your screen. You've probably wondered what those vehicles are or represent. Well, I'm going to explain that here today and also give you some tips on buying and trading vehicles from somebody who has bought and sold over 30 vehicles in the last 30 years. Stay tuned. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Motoring Adventures YouTube channel. I'm Preston, and today I'm going to talk about something that's not really related to a lot of the content on this channel, which is kind of a mix of things. I have on the description that it's about cars, camping, off-roading, and travel. And so pretty much everything you find on this channel will be related to those in some way or fashion. But basically, I'm an automotive enthusiast who also has a passion for the outdoors and going places in the vehicles I have. And I like using my vehicles to their fullest, at least for what they were designed for. You know, I've had everything from sedans, sport coupes, minivans, to heavy-duty pickup trucks. And they all serve different purposes, and the needs I've had for them have changed over the years. The needs, wants, and desires have changed. So I have traded a lot of vehicles, 30 plus vehicles. I think actually this is vehicle number 30 for me, not including the ones that my wife daily drives that are in both our names, even though all our vehicles we put in both our names. But this is my personal 30th vehicle. 30 vehicles in 30 years. A lot of people wonder, how can you trade that many times and not get burned? So I thought I would go over today and give you guys 10 car buying tips from somebody who has bought and sold over 30 cars in the last 30 years. One of the great things about having a truck, a pickup truck, is the tailgate. Very useful from everything from accessing the bed and all your gear to just having a random place to sit. So I'm going to run over this list of 10 things I've come up with. These aren't in any particular order, but car buying tip number 1, know what you want ahead of time. So what this means is just do your due diligence. Chances are, if you've been looking for a vehicle, you probably have somewhat of an idea of what you want. I mean, everyone has access to the internet nowadays, and there's dozens of search engines and automotive websites and tools at your disposal to research vehicles and know what you want. But what happens is a lot of time you go to a car dealership and the salesman comes out and their job is just to sell you a car, any car that's on their lot. If they don't exactly have what you're looking for, they'll try to get you into some other vehicle. I have had so many instances where they didn't quite have what I wanted, and they said, well, what about this? It's priced right around what you're looking for, and it does basically what you need, or how about we get you this? I've even had car salesmen try to get me into something completely different. They just wanted to sell something to me. And that's where the salesmen sometimes get a bad rap. They're just, quote unquote sleazy, or they're just trying to do anything to get you into an automobile so they can make their commission. But it helps when you really know what you want, all about what you want, so you can go into a place and be confident. If they don't have what you're looking for, you walk out. Don't let them help you. Or, they'll try to sit you down and say, hey, we can maybe find that vehicle for you. Now, then they're kind of more talking. You can then kind of sit down and, because they might be able to, work with you or give you a discount because you're willing to buy something from them. They're keeping your business. They want to, a lot of times they'll say they want to earn your business. And I'm not saying all of them are bad. A lot of them will go above and beyond to sell you the vehicle, and that includes giving you, discounts, incentives, and things like that. I don't want to paint all car salesmen as bad. Maybe there are a lot of them. They get a bad rap that they say things. They'll lie, cheat, and steal at times. Some of them, not saying all of them. In fact, I have an uncle who works in the automotive business. He's the chief financial officer, and he kind of knows what goes on behind the scenes when it comes to making a deal. They're trying to do everything anyway to get your business. In fact, they want to do, a lot of times they want to sell you other things. Like they want to have you keep coming back and getting their services. You get your oil change there, buy your new set of tires there, that sort of thing. That's, because that's how they can continually keep making money from the customers. Come back and trade your vehicle in again. You'll notice that. You'll come in, get your vehicle serviced here, and then while you're waiting, you kind of browse the lot and you might see something else you want. And that's a whole part of the system that they're trying to get, quote unquote, a customer for life. And, you can't blame them for that. They're trying to run a business and they want to keep it going. But just know that you have a better chance of getting more of what you want when you really know what it is you're looking for, inside and out. Know everything about the vehicle. Already know what kind of gas mileage it gets. Already know the safety ratings of it, or that sort of thing. But it really gives you an upper hand if you know what you're talking about at the dealership. All right, car buying tip number 2. Know what your vehicle is worth. Now, there's a number of ways you can find this out, and there's a lot of online tools now to help you with this. You can go to kellybluebook.com. There's NADA guides. Forever, you had the actual physical Kelley Blue Book and NADA guides that you could find at bookstores and places like that. But now a lot of that's available online. You can even go to Carvana. You can go to Edmunds. You punch in your VIN number or the year, make, and model of your vehicle and enter in all the options. They usually have a number of different options you can select to really hone in and target your vehicle's actual trade-in value or retail value. There's different ones you can look up. It all depends on if you're trying to sell your vehicle private party or if you're trying to trade it. Obviously, you'll get less if you're trying to trade it because the dealer is trying to buy it at quote-unquote wholesale, so they can resell it at retail and make a profit. That's what they're in the business of doing. But it really helps if you can have quite a good idea of what your vehicle's worth, because that's your negotiating chip. That's a lot of times dealers will offer you, their initial offer be less than Kelley Blue Book because they know what the wholesale value of your vehicle is. A lot of times they'll buy vehicles at auction, and that's usually what they call the wholesale value of your vehicle. And a lot of times Kelley Blue Book will be at or just slightly above what that value is. But as long as you know what that value is and you go in with that and you don't budge from what you want to get for your vehicle, then you can negotiate the actual selling price of theirs. Because a lot of times if they offer you, they say they have their price discounted in an ad or online, then they'll lowball you on your trade-in in order to make up part of that difference. And you have to be careful because that's one of their selling tactics. Also, if they offer you really good on your trade, but then they might sell their vehicle at higher retail value for that. So you just have to be really mindful and know the value of the vehicle you're wanting to buy, the vehicle you're wanting to sell or trade. And don't budge from those values, at least very much. I mean, if they make you an extremely good deal on their selling price, still try to get as much as you can for your vehicle as possible. This is why, and this will go into one of my future tips, and that is to try to negotiate the out-the-door price, which is the difference between the vehicle you're trading in and the vehicle you're buying. Sorry, not the difference. The out-the-door price is the amount of the vehicle you're buying with your negative equity tacked onto that and all taxes and fees and everything that you need to buy the vehicle. That is the out-the-door price, and that's what you preferably would want to negotiate. It makes it, in my opinion, an easier number to go by, and then you know exactly what you're going to be financially obligated to pay back. Car buying tip number 3, secure pre-approved financing. It really helps if you go into the dealership having already been pre-approved by a bank or a financial institution of your choice that has pre-approved you, because this This gives you a lot of negotiating power, having already been pre-approved. The dealership can rest assured that you are a serious buyer, that you're not just going in there taking a test drive or a joyride.
You gotta be kidding.
A lot of times a place that pre-approves you will give you a pre-approval letter that you can walk to the dealership with, and they'll give the dealer instructions on what to do for when you actually do purchase the vehicle. A lot of times the bank just needs nothing more than a simple purchase order sent from the dealer in order to get the financing started. So this again goes back to knowing the value of the vehicle you want to buy and your vehicle. That way you know how much you need to finance. And that's what I would apply for a loan for if you're financing. Now, if you're paying cash, obviously you don't need to do that. Although in some cases when interest rates are extremely low, not recently, but in the past 7-8 years, we've seen interest rates be as low as 1.5%. In some cases, even people with cash decide to finance because they can take that cash that they would have spent on the vehicle and invest it elsewhere and get a larger return than their interest rate is on the vehicle. And also, it doesn't just burn a big hole in your pocket. I mean, for a lot of people, the cost of a new vehicle or even a used vehicle is still a lot of money. It's not something that usually everyone just has floating around in their pocket and they're willing to just spend willy-nilly on. It's usually a very serious investment. Not investment in terms of getting money back, but investment in a form of transportation. Basically being the backbone of how you get to and from point A and point B. A lot of times it is your freedom to be able to just get up and go when you want to, when you need to, in an emergency or just for pleasure. So going into a dealership already having that, because a lot of times dealerships will try to sell you their own financing, either through that automaker's own financial institution, sometimes like, for example, Ford Credit. That always comes to mind as I see their ads, but a lot of times you have to have really squeaky clean credit to get those special 0% factory financing. And also if you do get the ultra low finance rate, you might have to pay it off in like 2 years or 3 years instead of being able to stretch it out. What I really like to use, and what I've these last several years, I've used credit unions. They'll usually be a lot more lenient in terms of what my credit score needs to be, and they'll also provide a lot lower rates than most banks do. And they'll be very flexible on the terms. I mean, a lot of times they'll stretch the term out to 72 and 84 months. A lot of people advise against that because you're just, by then, depending on how much you drive, that vehicle is going to be, 7 years old and have over 100,000 miles and won't be worth a whole lot. But then there's things you can get to mitigate that, like gap insurance, which isn't always a good thing to do either. But I've actually bought it from my credit unions because they offer a very, very cheap rate for gap insurance. So always a good idea to do, especially if you're going to be upside down, which most people are when they finance a vehicle, unless they put a tremendous amount of money down. Which leads me into tip number 4, which is don't put money down. I mean, you can put money down if you want. You want just a lower payment, or sometimes you want to finance it at a shorter term, so you don't want as big but the payment goes up, so you don't want as big a payment, so you put more money down. But a lot of times the dealer will try to ask for money down if you want to get the certain deal on the trade and the vehicle you're buying. This sometimes they'll try to say is so the bank will approve the loan, because some banks and financial institutions only lend up to a certain percentage of the value of the vehicle. They call it loan to value ratio. Say if after you add the negative equity of your trade onto the price of the new vehicle and it reaches, X amount, we'll just say $40,000, for example, but they value the vehicle being only worth $32,000. That's a pretty high loan to value ratio, and a lot of them don't want to be that underwater in the deal, in the loan. Others, it just depends on the financial institution. Like I said, again, credit unions, my credit union has done well over what the average bank would do, a lot of times going up to as high as 130% loan to value. which gives a lot of negotiating and buying power, because you can make deals you wouldn't normally be able to make or stretch yourself thin, which a lot of people would argue against as well. But a lot of times they don't require money down. Like, I've only had to put money down once, and it was because I chose to, because I wanted a lower payment. But I've been able to always do 100% financing through whatever institution I use, and a lot of times through the dealer's institutions. There are times I have used dealer financing just because I didn't get pre-approved, but I found a deal I really wanted to go try to negotiate on and trade on, and I just went with what they had. And a lot of times they won't get me the best rate, and I'll go back and refinance it with my credit union, and I've been able to get a better rate that way. But for the most of the time, you don't have to put any money down. Like, a lot of times it's like the dealer just wants extra cash just for their special, just for that deal. Tip number 5, negotiate the out-the-door price, not the monthly payment. This goes back to what I said earlier. Know what that vehicle's worth that you want to buy, know what your vehicle's worth, and figure out what that amount that you need to finance is, and go get approved for that. A lot of times what dealers try to do is they go, well, what monthly payment do you want? What do you pay now on your current vehicle? Because they're trying to sell you a monthly payment. They can do things like, stretching the loan out to 72 or 84 months to lower your payment and make you think you're getting a good deal, but they hide all of the money, that extra money they're making, in the actual out the door amount. So that's why I always negotiate the out the door price. I'll say, I want it for this amount out the door with my trade. And that requires you to give them a very accurate trade-in value or payoff amount on your vehicle, which I'll get into in a little bit. But always negotiate the out the door price, or at least really know, like, stand firm on either your trade or what their selling price is, and then negotiate the other one, because you'll calculate what that out the door price is. But I usually like to just make it a simple thing, this much out the door with taxes, with trade-in and everything. And that usually just makes the negotiation process that much easier. Car buying tip number 6. And this is what I think is pretty important. It's what allows you to get the absolute best deal you can possibly get. And that is, don't be afraid to walk away. Don't be afraid to walk away from the dealership, from the vehicle that you want to buy. There will always be another one similar to it. But I've seen 9 times out of 10, I have left the dealership, and either the next day or even later that same day, the dealership will almost always call me back wanting to negotiate more. Even if they've already told me that they've reached a number that they absolutely cannot go beyond. You'll believe it's insane how many times they've called me back, or I've even contacted them back wanting to negotiate more, and they are still willing to come to the table. It's almost like it's an informality, that it's kind of just a understood under the table thing that you're going to negotiate. You're not just going to take the first price that they give you of the car. Don't ever just buy the vehicle for what it says on the sticker. Always try to negotiate. And this is something that a lot of wealthy people try to do in their everyday lives. They try to negotiate everything they buy, or anything that they have a subscription to, or anything like that. And it should be no different in the automotive world, especially in times like now when supply is high, and there's lots of the same vehicle out there you can find. Definitely negotiate price. And a lot of times there's hidden incentives that they don't tell you about, especially on new vehicles. There's a lot of factory to dealer incentives and things like that. And that leads me into the next car buying tip. Car buying tip number 7, dealer floor plan and invoice pricing. Dealerships have what they call a floor plan. A lot of times they don't own the vehicles, especially this may pertain more to new vehicles than used vehicles. They don't outright own the vehicles they have usually. Usually they kind of have them on loan from the factory, and they have a floor plan, which is like their way of, we have this much money we're willing to invest in all these, like to have these vehicles here, and we need to sell all of them. In order to make profit, we have to do it by a certain amount of time, or it's costing us extra money. And a lot of times the invoice is what they actually acquire the vehicle for, or what their floor plan is. And I think in a lot of instances, I'm not totally sure on this, but I've heard that they have to, by law, give you the invoice of the new vehicle. I don't know if this probably isn't the case on used, even though you could probably find that information one way or another through tax records or something. But they have to let you know, or you can usually use that as a negotiating tactic. Find out what the trade-in value is of the vehicle you're wanting to buy, which could be kind of hard if it's brand new. But you can find it used to be you could find out what the invoice was by looking up NADA value of the vehicle and taking a certain percentage. And it used to be like a set number, like 94%, 95% was the dealer's invoice on that car. So if they acquired that vehicle, they're selling it for example, 100 grand, just to inflate a number, just to have an easy number, and they bought it at invoices, which is 94,000 or 95,000, and they got a $5,000 profit in there. And usually you can negotiate that down, that they're still going to make profit, even if you get what you think is thousands of dollars off. They're still going to make their money. So there's still room for negotiation in there. And the longer they've owned the vehicle, the more it's costing them. So a lot of times the invoice, a sheet that they print out that they actually call the invoice, will say when they acquired that vehicle. And recently, like when I traded for this, they said they had this for 57 days on the lot. So it'd been there a while. They were really willing to negotiate on this particular Ram Power Wagon, which was in my favor, because then they kept dropping the price the more I would negotiate with them. They didn't really want to give me more for my trade. They wanted to give me, I got right around what the Kelley Blue Book value was for the Rubicon 392, which was unfortunate because it was really low and it had gone significantly down from when I purchased it just a year and a half before. But that was something I was willing to do. Sometimes you have to be willing to take a little bit of a loss if you want to get the next vehicle you want to get, especially if you owe more than what your vehicle is worth. That's just kind of the reality of it. I mean, the plus side is you have the freedom to change vehicles, which can be a very positive thing for some people. Some people are just sick and tired of the vehicle they're in. They don't feel like they're getting their money's worth in their monthly payment, or there's a problem with the vehicle. Might not be something major that prevents them from driving it, but there's just some reason that they really just can't live with the vehicle anymore, at least not for the remaining years or the remaining of their term. To some people, it's just easier just to trade and get the actual vehicle you want to get for the monthly payment that you're making. So always negotiate. All right, car buying tip number 8. Give them an accurate trade payoff of your vehicle that you're trading in, if you are trading in a vehicle. You want to give them as accurate as possible number for the payoff amount on the trade. So it's a good idea to call your bank ahead of time and find out what the exact payoff amount. That's different than the actual balance on the loan, which you can usually look up on an online app or the financial institution's website. The exact payoff is what it costs that day to pay the vehicle off. And usually the dealership will want a per diem, or how much the interest is costing per day that's being tacked on for the next month's monthly payment. And the dealer wants that. So, because once you walk out with the vehicle or before you sign papers, they're going to crunch all the numbers and give you what your out the door number is, whether you want it or not. They're going to tell you what that is. And it's all based off of what the number is for your value of your trade and what they're selling theirs. And they want that per diem amount because it'll take them a few days to send the proper funds to the bank for your trade and to get the money from the bank. And it takes a few days for all this to process. But what happens is by the time they actually do all of that, or they actually go to pay that, the per diem amount has been added, and now the payoff amount is different than the day you gave them the trade-in amount. And a thing that I've seen dealers do in the past is they will call you up and say, hey, your trade amount was different. You now owe us the difference between what your paid trade-off is now and what you said it was. And my way of coming back with that is, hey, that's not the number we negotiated on for the trade. I've actually been able to have the dealer on several occasions absorb that extra value, that change in trade payoff amount from the time you first negotiated to when they actually went to pay it off. Because they should have known that it was going to go up, and they should have already based it on the number of by the time they actually paid for it. A lot of times I've seen the dealer do this many days after I negotiated with them. And it's like, they should have known better. I mean, first of all, it shouldn't take them, 10, 15 days to pay a vehicle off. A lot of times they want a 20-day per diem. And the bank sometimes tells me, really, they want that long? It shouldn't take them that long. I mean, sometimes they could be busy and backlogged, but I think a lot of times they want that because they just want to be able to say, call you back and go, hey, your payoff amount was different than you told us. You owe us X number of dollars on top of it. And a lot of times people fall for that and end up paying them that difference, in cash. And you don't have to do that. You really should just get as accurate amount on your payoff as possible. If anything, give them the amount that it'll be 10 days from now, 20 days from now, and then you'll get that difference back. I've seen it where they overpaid for the trade and I got a check back from my financial institution because it was negotiated into the deal that the trade amount was higher than it actually was. But they know this, and I think they do that as a tactic just to get some extra cash from you from the deal. Car buying tip number 9, don't pay for any dealer add-ons. And these are things that the dealer likes to add to the vehicle and give you an extra sticker on this. And I've seen this for both used and new vehicles. They try to add this window etching that allows them to track it or allows the cops to find it easier if it's stolen. A lot of times they'll add on prices for wheel locks and then or window tinting. And then they inflate these prices well beyond what you would have to pay for, even from their parts department. So yeah, just be wary of things that the dealer tries to add on. They're not always things that you want. Sometimes they sound like things you want. They'll like sell you paint protection and this and that. Either they just put a coat of wax on it that you could buy at a store, or they even didn't really do anything. I mean, like I said, they're out to make money in any way, shape, or form from you, and dealer add-ons is one way of doing it. And finally, car buying tip number 10, and that is, don't buy the dealer's extended warranty or the dealer's gap insurance, which usually happens at the finance stage of the deal when you go back and talk to their finance guy, the guy that has, a lot of times, in many cases, still had like a word processor or a typewriter. Maybe I'm dating myself, but I have done this buy and sell car. I have bought cars for over 30 years now, so. But that's where they try to sell you. I've seen them pull out this laminated piece of paper that has all these different plans on it. And, they're like, well, if you can't afford this one, how about this one? Or we can sell you this warranty and gap for, $39.95. It sounds like a lot, but, it'll only up your payment $10 to $20 a month, Then again, they're trying to sell you on payment because it's easier to sell $20 or $30 than it is $3,000 or $4,000. So you have to be very careful when you get to that stage. And a lot of these things are prorated and they're done through some third party. It's almost shady in some ways. Now I've been able to like retroactively go back and buy, sell it back to them because I said I didn't want it. I mean, first of all, if you're buying a brand new vehicle, it still comes with usually a 3-year, 36,000 mile bumper to bumper warranty, and a lot of times they'll have a powertrain warranty that extends beyond that. And when you buy the extended warranty, it's supposed to cover you during that period. I mean, you already have a warranty for that early period. You really only need it after that period. I mean, theoretically, you could go in 3 years later or 36,000 miles later, then buy an extended warranty, but they're selling it to you at the beginning when it's kind of redundant. You don't really need it. And in my experience, I've had these types of warranties before, and anytime I had a problem and I called them, they would try to get out of paying for it in any way, shape, or form. They'd say that is not covered under the warranty, or that's just general use and abuse or whatever. We're not going to cover that. Or just realize not only did you tack that onto your loan and your monthly payment, but you're also paying interest on that as well. And one thing I forgot to mention is a lot of times the dealer will lie about the interest rate you get. They'll say, if you do dealer financing or the financial institutions that they deal with, they'll say, a lot of times they'll ask me, who do I bank with? And I'll tell them, and they say, oh, we work with them. Do it, we can set all that up for you. And, they'll come back and say, oh, you were approved, but it was, for example, 7%. But then when you get to the negotiating table at the finance guy, they'll say, Well, we can drop that rate to 6% if you sign up for the factory warranty or the gap insurance that they'll try to sell you there. And it's usually quite expensive gap insurance. Whenever they say they can lower your interest rate if you get X product, you know they've lied to you somewhere. They've lied to you about the true interest rate that you get, that the bank will approve you for, because they want you to use the financing that they're negotiating with on their end, because they're actually a lot of times getting a kickback from those financial institutions if they set it up. There's just so many ways that they can try to make money. It's why you really, really want to know what your vehicle's worth, what theirs is worth. You really want to know your stuff when going in and negotiating and to buy an automobile. Just thought I'd pass along some tips to help somebody who might be thinking of going and buying a vehicle or needing to trade a vehicle and just wanted to have maybe more ammunition going into the dealership when getting into that negotiating room. Just know what you're getting into. I mean, sometimes you may not always get the best deal, and that's okay. I mean, eventually you're going to pay for the vehicle one way or another. Anyway, I hope you found this useful. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.